Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome everybody to the Music Meets Tech panel. I go by the name of Kyle Bailey, and we have a pretty riveting panel on our way. I see there's a few people coming in, so you guys come in, get settled in so we can get started. But in the meanwhile, let's transition into our panelists that we have. We have a pretty cool panel, a diverse group in between tech and music, and I just want to introduce everybody. So to my left, I'm going to start off with Ed. Ed, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I'm Ed Maguire. I have a kind of a long history in the music business. I actually worked in the music business before I went to Wall Street and worked as a tech analyst and an investment banker for about 17 years. And I'm working for doing a VC and advisory and industrial Internet of Things. And I went down the crypto rabbit hole really, really deeply a few months ago. So happy to share some history and some perspective.
That's awesome, Ed. So we have a mixture of tech, we have a mixture of finance right here with you. Okay, cool. All right. And I'm going to segue over to Eric, and we'll end with Aziz. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, sure. Thanks, Kyle. And thanks, WeWork, for putting it on. Sandy, wherever you are, Secure My Brand, thank you. The WIM app, thank you. Thank you all, of course, for coming. I'm Eric. I'm the COO and head of A&R at PurpleThrone. 5+ years of music industry experience and even less in crypto experience, I'd say. It's a fun space. It's a fast-moving space. I love it. The ride so far has been great, and we're really looking forward to 2018 to really take us through the roof here, or to the moon, as they say.
Okay, and just to segue to our last panelist, Aziz Bey.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aziz. I am the founding developer of PurpleThrone. And if you guys are not familiar with it, PurpleThrone is a music streaming service designed to empower musicians financially and artistically. Our job here at PurpleThrone is to give and not to take, and to decentralize the corporations who have pretty much monopolized the earning power and potential of musicians around the world. And so what we're doing here at PurpleThrone is using blockchain and cryptocurrency technology to change the way artists earn. And give independent musicians an ability to earn a living for themselves based on the merit of their music, and not so much it being a gimmick or a fashion show or what someone else says about their brand. So that's pretty much it.
Power to the people.
Aziz, you did a really great job at explaining PurpleThrone and the origin, so I think we might as well jump into it. I'm looking around, I see a lot of my peers, friends, new faces as well, and it seems that people just want to understand too, like, what is the relationship with music and tech right now in 2017? And that question I'm going to throw right at you, Aziz.
Well, it depends on which side of the bar you're on. If you are a fan of music and you're not a maker of music, then I think you pretty much, unless you just in the 5% of people who just a SoundCloud junkie and you just pouring through new artists and new music. The majority of us just take whatever the corporations shove at us. And pretty much taken in technology right now doesn't really give a good bridge to the discovery of new artists and new music. And so if you're a fan of music, and strictly as a fan, not a maker of music, you pretty much you're indifferent. You're happy to take your Cardi B and you're cool with it. You're not really, because you're not exposed. And then
I like Cardi B, by the way.
Yeah, Cardi, we love you.
We love you, Cardi.
But there's probably 1,000 other, female artists out there who probably is better than Cardi B that we wouldn't know of because of the saturation of Cardi B over the airwaves. And so, as a fan, you take your Cardi B and you love it. I say as a musician, it's a tough task because musicians typically aren't on the front edge of technology. So what they do is they do what everyone else do, thinking they're going to be able to monetize their music, basically what everyone else do. So if everyone else is telling them, as a musician, the best way to try to, as they call it, buzz. I hate that word buzz because buzz is ambiguous. What is buzz? Buzz is very expensive, and it's hard to get an ROI on buzz. So, you create all this buzz on YouTube and you try to get your video on Vivo and you get
$1 per 1,000 streams.
Right.
And then at the end of all that buzz, you probably barely made enough money to pay yourself lunch. So it's frustrating.
Jump in too, because Ed, we spoke a little bit before this panel, and one thing I love about you and your experience is you represent wisdom in the room. And just pay attention to Ed, guys. You guys can learn a lot from him. But what made it become this? I know, in terms of MP3s, it broke into the industry in the mid '90s, and the music industry they didn't know what to do. Was that the first? How can I put it? Transition of tech taking over or helping?
Actually, I'll let me put my little professor's hat on, and I'll give everybody a bit of a history lesson. So, musicians have actually struggled through history to make livings. I mean, if you go back and look at the great composers,
Mozart died penniless, right?
They all had to have, they had to have patrons and sponsors. There was, what happened was there was always, demand before we had recorded music. You could make money because if you wanted to hear music, you either had to play it at home or you had to go hear somebody play it live, right? So one of the interesting aspects in history that happened in right around the 1940s. So the phonograph was started around the beginning of last century, but there was a musicians' strike in the 1940s, actually during the war, because all these musicians who were making their living in these big bands. So there was a whole era where you could support a family in a big band because people would go out and that was their entertainment. And then when the record industry started taking over and people were substituting records, the actual musicians went on strike for 4 years. So there was actually a whole period where there were not records that were made. They would actually make these choirs of singers. So it's kind of a weird thing. All right, so what happened was, they sorted things out with royalties. Musicians were able to get a share for what they wrote, for what they were able to create. But that also, created a different dynamic, which is that you could put music onto a little plastic disc, and if that disc sold 1 million copies, you did not have any incremental cost of making another disc, right? I mean, you make it once and you sell 1 million copies. Wow, you hit the jackpot. And
do we call that platinum? Is that a platinum?
Platinum, multi-platinum, whatever, right? I mean, so that that business model lasted from really the kind of 1930s all the way up until maybe just a few years ago. Where it's still there. People still buy CDs, but you think about the actual frictions of putting music on a disc where you record it once. Now, how do you make money in music? Well, you either, if you make it live, you either have to have more people, more shows, or you charge higher prices. That's it. That's how you scale. When you scale in the record business, it was all, there was a lot of friction because it cost a lot of money to manufacture, and then you had you had distributors and you had Tower Records. I worked, I was a musician. I was a music major in college, and I used to play in all these bands, but I made my living for 7 years selling CDs to Tower for all these independent labels.
And Ed, I have a question because you had brought up something about just buying a CD. There was a debate that I was actually looking at, and they spoke about the fact of how we have streaming. You now have the ability, instead of you just buying your favorite album 1 or 2 times, after it breaks or it gets scratched, you can actually stream it as much as you want over and over. Do you think that is an advantage to the artist/tech industry because of that?
Well, here's the problem with streaming. Okay, so, and by the way, the record industry I'm going to use a little technical term, they're fucking morons. In the 90s when digitization came, they would charge you would have to buy an entire album for $15 if you wanted one song. They'd force you to buy it. So that's when, when Napster emerged, right? That sort of opened up the Pandora's box where people started getting used to having music for free. Now, the problem with, and I know the Pandora business model and the Spotify business model is kind of interesting because those companies aren't actually making a lot of money, but they're also paying diddly squat. royalty that's paid for a single stream is nothing, right? I mean, you guys see.
It's like a penny of a penny.
Yeah, or it's a fraction. Yeah, it's like one 100 millionth of a penny, right? You can have 1 billion views and you get like enough to buy a beer, right? It's insane. So, but people aren't. You can't even buy CD players, and cars don't even come with CD players anymore. And so, listen, you got to kind of go with the flow, right? How do you monetize your fans who are willing to pay? I mean, if you can sell like the one, so Apple. There's a couple of numbers. When I left the music industry or the record industry in '98, it was a $16 billion a year business. 10 years later, it was 16 to 6. That's the pie that gets shared among everybody that was making music. And now stuff I was doing like jazz, I mean, that was like, we're talking like, the change between the seat cushions already. So, but at least what's happened is things are growing now. And people are monetizing in other ways, right? They're monetizing through ads and YouTube. There's some other issues, but how do you people tried a whole bunch of subscriptions. I think the best thing you can do is like at least have a live this new technology is providing a way to have a relationship with your true fans. And if you have fans who are willing to pay, if a few bucks a year, for what to support you. Listen, the streaming, you'll have to give away a lot of it. We go back to the point where like music in a sense, it wasn't really a business, and most of the economic power is in other parts of the industry.
So to jump more into the fiscal aspect of where music and tech is, and Aziz and Eric, you guys can jump in if you feel fit. There's like a little birdie going around in the tech music world that Spotify may be applying to go public. I mean, if you guys are saying in terms of like the music industry and tech has dwindled a little bit in terms of revenue, do you see something like Spotify potentially going public being a benefit?
Benefit to who?
The artists.
Not at all. Public is a great way. When you go public, it's a great way for the executives and the investors to cash out, and dump the bag onto the shareholders. So I don't see it benefiting the artists at all.
So it seems like it only benefits the executives.
Exactly right.
Or shareholders.
Yeah,
shareholders.
The built-in people. I mean, we know Spotify is one of the better ways for artists to monetize nowadays, but it's not that great, right?
Royalty rates are fixed, though. They're fixed
Basis
by the
streaming,
government.
right? Yeah.
I mean, I personally haven't used Spotify, but I know we have some artists here in the building. Any of our artists use Spotify or have playlists with them? How's that been working for you?
Right on the money with it.
Oh, okay.
That's K Cradle, #1 on the app right there. He knows.
Just
And
curious.
off the money, right?
Just curious. Okay.
Well, yeah, I think it's more than a little birdie. The IPO talk, I think it's a large birdie. I think it's a big birdie. I think it's going to happen. Just I don't know when, but yeah, I'm with Aziz on this one. I mean, they need money, I guess, and they need to attract some shareholders. They need to start selling some shares of the company. They need an influx of cash, right? We're looking to do an ICO, right? But then we'll be incorporating that directly into the artist's pockets, directly from the platform to your electronic wallet, and then redeem our services, cash out as you want. We'll help you with that, but we're cutting out the middleman.
Eric, you touched on something pretty cool about the ICO. We're gonna get to that. I just want to dibble and dabble a little bit in music, and then once we get to the tech
just
side,
a
we're gonna
little
have some
hint for
fun.
y'all.
We're gonna have some fun. But to jump back to music, so just going back to these platforms that are starting to revolutionize music and tech, like the Napsters, the Spotifys, the Apple Musics, and these sharing companies, Pandora, whatever. Are there any like success stories that you guys hear coming out of those type of companies?
Well, iTunes is cool because I mean they're really running like their own platform. Spotify helps artists in the sense of getting onto playlists and expanding your reach. We're gonna do both of those and beyond, right? We're gonna run ourselves or we already are running ourselves as a digital label. So we'll be backing our artists as well as giving them a glimpse and access to a much wider market and fan base than they could have if they just go off of YouTube or anything like that.
And with tech companies, maybe the royalty rates may not be the best, but are they getting users to engage a lot more in the music ever than, like, basically the best so far?
Well, if you look at the pure statistics, right? If you look at the statistics, I said this before, and I'll say it again. 75 to 80% of all the music that is being streamed on Pandora and Spotify are from major record label artists.
I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that. Is
So
that true?
Believe it.
Believe it. It's if you look up their streams, right? Now, when you listening to a major record label artist, right, they'll try to, they'll slip in like someone you never heard of before. But for the majority of their traffic is to the majors, and very little at all it goes to the millions of musicians around the world who aren't associated with major record companies. So if you ask who is benefiting, it's benefiting the majors. So the major record companies have almost a system where they help each other, right? So they work, and of course they pay for that. So the majors they work specifically with the radio, the mainstream radio stations. They work specifically with all the major public relation companies, all of the major acting companies. In fact, the major record labels also own a lot of them own their own studios. So you talk about trying to, get your music in type and feature on type of television, or get it, featured in some type of movie. Well, that's for their artists. So it is they have their own ecosystem, is what I'm trying to say. Between the PR, between the movies, between indie magazines, and between all the streaming companies. And if you're not a part of that ecosystem, it is very, very difficult for you.
So what I'm getting from this panel, it seems like the music and tech industry, they're pretty much paired up hand in hand, right? But I just feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I want you guys to chime in, is it safe to say that these tech companies are becoming the labels these days? Like with Apple Music doing exclusive deals with like people like Drake and Chance the Rapper and things of that nature, and catalog, organization.
Those are just channels, right? So what's interesting is that the creation, the amount of time that's taken to, or the cost of production has dropped, right? So because people have all these digital tools, it's really easy. So they're not necessarily producing. But they do become the distribution channels. So there's an interesting aspect of the technology industry, is that we've got all this market concentration that's now accrued to YouTube, to Google, to Facebook. And actually, an interesting book I point to folks called "Move Fast and Break Things" by Jonathan Taplin, who was a guy.
Can you say that again? Actually,
Move Fast and Break Things by Jonathan Taplin. So he's a guy who grew up, worked, he was a manager for Bob Dylan and all these guys. And one of his good buddies, who was the drummer for this group called The Band, had this royalty stream that he expected was going to keep him, but basically it was like his Social Security in the old age, into his old age. And then he gets throat cancer, and his royalties drop because of streaming. So, and he's having to have benefits and things like that. So he looks at what's happening with Google and Facebook. Every time you punch in a search to Google or Facebook or YouTube, they're monetizing this, and they have an enormous amount of market power. And so there's a real, I think there's now some concern about are these the monopolists? Do they monopolize? People believed in the beginning. There's another guy named Jaron Lanier, who was sort of the virtual reality guy. He's like this funky-looking, pasty white dude with dreads. If you ever see like in VR, but he's an amazing thinker. So he was involved with designing the internet. And when they designed the internet at first, the whole idea was to have it open, so that like if you were to exchange files, any digital file, like if I was going to copy a book or a record or a movie, I could send it to you guys, and it would just go over the network automatically without having a mechanism to monetize that. And because the whole idea was to have it very open. And he came back and he said, wait a minute, what's happened is that the people with the most computers have the most power. So, the whole idea that you would level the playing field because anybody can go on YouTube, anybody can upload stuff to Facebook, right? You can create all this buzz with these tools, but the reality is that the people who have the control and the reach, they're making money off all your efforts, and there's not an even distribution of the fruits of all the work that you put in, right? So that's one of the super interesting aspects about this kind of this new evolution of blockchain technologies. But people are looking at these companies like, wait a minute, you got these, and listen, Amazon, Apple, if you buy stuff off their stores, legit, they pay people. There's still an industry there, and they're legit companies. But when Google and YouTube has so much piracy. You can put stuff on. People are I'm guilty of it too. I want to hear music. I just punch up on YouTube. I don't buy it. I don't pay for it, right? They're getting the ad dollars.
So, I've been trying to hold off on this conversation, but we might as well jump into blockchain, cryptocurrency. I think that's what most of the people here want to hear. Yep. But is it safe to say, even with the blockchain technology, is that something that's going to step in and kind of help protect piracy or even champion against it? Or, well, first of all, what is blockchain technology? We could put that in layman terms.
All right,
people that
I'll
don't
explain.
know,
It's super
myself.
complicated, but what it is it's basically a way to store data so it can't be changed. So it's fixed. There's no way to alter it. So blockchain has an enormous. There's a lot of capabilities to blockchain because there's all this complicated mathematics. But very simply, it's just a big database where everything gets stored. And it can't be changed. It's what's called immutable, and it also has this characteristic of being decentralized, where you can have a network of people running. It sort of takes off from Napster. Like with Napster, anybody could join the network and share. But now, when you have things like cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, you put your computer on the network, and you contribute the amount of electricity and storage to that network that makes up this whole big community online. You get rewarded. So people are like, okay, I'm going to join up too. And then what happens is you're able to create these communities. But for the first time, what's really different about blockchain, and this is want to hammer home this point, is that when music became digital, you were able to copy it, and there was no degradation, and you could copy it infinitely. Because it's ones and zeros. It's like when I used to have LP albums and I'd make cassette tapes, and I'd make a cassette tape copy of a copy. It would suck right after the third time, right? It would degrade. But with digital, that's part of the problem. With the blockchain, you can create digital copies, digital assets that are unique. And this, for the first time, if you're an artist, you can create a track that is unique, that when you share it with somebody, all that information about who it belongs to, who gets paid for it, you can track it, you can track who uses it. It's for the first time there are opportunities now for artists to kind of take control and really create networks and systems and communities.
And Ed, you're on a roll here, and I just want to throw this question right back at you. We spoke, everybody, all of the panelists and stuff, and there was actually a company that you had mentioned that was using blockchain technology relating to the publishing industry.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of them. There's Peer Tracks, there's Ujo, there's the artist called Imogene Heap has done some work. But I actually spoke to this guy. He's still in stealth. It's called like Ouya.ai, and what he's doing is creating a music publishing platform. It's a production platform where you'll be able to collaborate with people like anybody, but every track that you lay down, that you store, is going to be imprinted with like a unique identifier. So if it gets copied, that identifier stays with it. And so you'll be able to embed things like, who are the artists? Like who are the artists? who are the songwriters? How do you divvy up the songwriting credits? So on this publishing platform, and it's a bunch of MIT geeks and Berkeley music.
Or even maybe track piracy, right?
Well, piracy, absolutely, right?
Track who's copying.
And I'm thinking more or less distributing royalties fairly, because I feel with streaming, they're paying the artists okay, but the songwriters, the producers, there's still like a gray area when it comes down to how those are being distributed too. So hopefully that I can help out as well. Okay. All right. So, so we spoke about blockchain a little bit and how it can help the music industry. Do you guys see in the near future companies like Apple Music or even the Spotify's and Tidal, let's throw Tidal in there too, these big behemoths throwing in some form of cryptocurrency or coin within those apps?
I think so.
I know PurpleThrone is already about to launch that as well, so I think you should, yeah.
Yeah, I think
January 22nd.
I think that we are, would you say 1995 HTTP again, and so there is there's a huge learning curve for a lot of the embedded companies, all the big name companies, all of the corporations, and generally when something new threatens their bottom line, their initial reaction is to figure out a way to fight it. The way they fought Napster in the beginning. But I do believe, and we've seen evidence already with GoFundMe, for example, after they realized they cannot fight this technology. This technology is just it's something, when you create even something as simple as when you have a wallet and you transfer funds onto your wallet, and then you can move it and create another wallet, and you can just, the way you can transfer funds and the way you can create these contracts and the way you can embed them, as Ed was talking about, there's no courtroom that can control it. And then when they realize that, I do believe that they will figure out a way to assimilate into this new technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable too. All these major companies and labels to start their own coins, to have their own token sales, right? There's just too much money to be left on the table not to. December of 2017 was, I think, the highest grossing ICO month to date, and it was like over $1 billion. So it's like, yeah, you're going to get your Apple coin. I mean, Kodak is coming out with their own coin to revolutionize
right. I was just going to bring that up.
Photography industry. Everybody's going to have it.
I'm like the neutral guy here, so I have to make sure that the audience understands and the panel, let's explain it the right way. So when we're talking about ICOs and like companies that have IPOs that want to produce their own ICOs, like what does that mean exactly? What is an ICO?
All right, so an initial public offering is an offering of stock. It's actually a share of the company that will entitle the holder to benefits of the business. An initial coin offering, initial token offering is actually an innovation that the blockchain has enabled that actually allows you to have a share of either a functional unit of a network. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. Or it can be kind of a replacement for equity. So it's what's really interesting is that I'll tell you why. Before I try to explain what it is, I'll tell you kind of why it's cool. So what it allows people to do who are like regular investors, like friends of mine who are like, I don't want to listen to this Wall Street bullshit. I just want to get involved in like early stage projects where you have Silicon Valley, all these VCs on Sand Hill Road. They get all the deals, they get access to deals. But what it is it's like crowdfunding. Like regular people are able to invest in. Essentially, they're sort of and there are a couple of different types of tokens. You can kind of pre-buy a product. It's like when you go to Kickstarter, you buy. Say, I want to buy that. I want to buy like a cool, connected watch. What you're doing with an ICO is you're pre-buying software, and you're saying, I'm going to use this software. It's like an app, like an application, but it's helping companies raise money super early. It's a total Wild West, by the way. So there's a lot of money that's been raised. There's also a lot of a lot of confusion, and there's not a lot of clarity yet around the laws. And people have to be very careful because when you get into investments, having worked on Wall Street, and I know the kind of the regulatory landscape there. People just want to protect and know that like you're being informed. You're not that people don't come out and cheat you, right? So that's what the regulators are. They're kind of on the sidelines right now. But ICOs are really amazing, and what they do is they also enable people to raise money globally. And this is not a U.S. thing. This is what's so interesting about this is that like you got people in Singapore and Russia and well, China banned them because that's it's getting.
We could go to
crazy.
Singapore for
Yeah,
that.
but anyway, but really all over. So I mean, this is a global phenomenon, and it's a way to raise money for early stage companies where they don't have to deal with the whole VC shuffle and in the best vision, it allows people who are regular folks to say, hey, I believe in this project. I want to get involved with it. And now I have access to some amazing opportunities.
Okay, so with ICO,
real quick,
what's up?
could you just explain? I don't know if everyone's clear here about what VCs are and what they do. Could you just break that down real quick?
All right. Yeah. I
Venture
Yeah.
capitalist.
Please stop me if I throw out. I don't want to throw out too many acronyms. So venture capital firms are they're investors that invest in private companies and startups, and what there are. It's a whole community of early stage investors. These guys take moonshots. It's sort of like the music business in a way, right? Where like 1% of the projects pay off like 1,000x, and everything else loses money. That's kind of the mindset that VCs bring. Like they're willing to take a shot on a team, and they'll give them money to grow the business. But the challenge is that you kind of have to be, they're the very elite. VCs only get access to the best deals and the best, yeah.
And back to the whole concept of ICOs, it sounds like it's definitely a business-to-business transaction. But in terms of like artists, can an artist start up an ICO or create something that represents that technology to help their brand?
Oh, we've seen it.
Okay.
I forget the company now. Token Pay?
I thought you were talking about Singular DTV.
Singular DTV, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically running like GoFundMe campaigns for artists, right? So an artist comes onto the platform and launches their own token and basically just raises money for their production products, right? For their production projects. We're doing that, but we're doing it for you, right? So all you have to do is come and be a part of PurpleThrone, and you'll gain access to the Purple coin and our services that way. Now, for me, ICOs, just to go back to the question, in addition to the IPO kind of natural comparison, it's a great way for tech companies to raise money. It's a great way, and you touched on it with the GoFundMe. It's a way for us to implement our more, let's say, far-reaching ideas on our white paper. Our more abstract concepts, our more moon-guided concepts. It's a way for us to put those into place. We already have the app. We already have the artists. We already have the shows. We already have the venues. We already have the production services. The ICO, the initial coin offering, the creation of Purple Coin, and having the international community participate in that and fundraise through that. It just allows us to ramp everything up, to go crazy, to take our ideas and make them reality.
And I feel like we spoke about the who, what, wheres, but me personally, being a novice to this, like, what's the how? How does one get into, I guess, the cryptocurrency exchange, or even buying in, or like, how does that start? Can you guys help us out with that?
Well, Uncle Sam, in his infinite knowledge, has made it illegal for U.S. citizens to participate in initial coin offerings. So,
Actually, not all of them.
Not all of
You
them.
just have to be accredited investors. So there's some very specific restrictions too. But I could talk about that a bit. But there's a lot of a lot of the most attractive ones are not accessible to like just regular folk.
average
So
Joes.
that's us joining an ICO, but just to purchase a coin itself. We have U.S. citizens were allowed to do that?
Yes, not well.
If it's trading,
with the exception of whatever Ed will mention.
Not on the ICO, but once something's trading,
Sure.
right? You can. That's the whole idea. Like you can buy it from somebody else.
That's the
legal.
secondary market aspect, right? Once it enters the trading platforms and the crypto exchanges, then everybody in this room can purchase them as you would a normal stock on the stock exchange. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I want to go back to this regulation, right? To the SEC. making it, as far as I'm concerned, impossible for U.S. citizens to participate. But let's talk about the loophole, because that's interesting.
Well, I mean, this is super complicated, but because there are, and I don't want to go too far in the weeds.
I only have a bachelor's, so please keep it.
Well, there's a lot of debate on this. I mean, the SEC, to be fair, has been pretty. They're not taking a heavy hand at this point. I think they're sort of sitting on the sidelines, but there are laws about actually because if you want to sell stock to the general public, there are rules about you have to follow a whole bunch of filing requirements. But if you sell to what's called accredited investors, there's something called Reg A plus. There's Reg 506. There are Reg Ds. You actually have to register the security in every single state. It's totally inefficient. It's one of the reasons why people go to Canada, because if you register in Quebec or in British Columbia, you can sell to anybody all over Canada. And people outside of the U.S. generally don't have that problem. Yeah, the U.S. is really complicated because it's like you have 53 regulatory agencies to deal with when you're selling a security. Now, if you're selling a utility token, this is the only point I would make here is that utility tokens are essentially like buying a piece of software in advance. Now, people are making money from utility tokens, but what you can't do is tell people that they're going to make money when you're selling it to them, because the SEC considers this manner of sale, and this is really important. So they shut down. What they did was there was a project called Munchie, which was a token sale. They collected like $15 million, and the SEC came in and basically said, "Listen, we know you guys weren't trying to, you weren't trying to break the law, but you were telling people that they can expect to make money from your token, and you can't do that."
You have to ensure them that they could lose.
If you do that, then a whole different set of rules applies. So they gave back the money. Nobody went to jail. It wasn't, so they're going after frauds and scamsters. But if you're legit and you call them up, they're actually being pretty reasonable, surprisingly.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So, all right. So even with like tech companies dealing with music, do you guys see cryptocurrency used as a form of redistributing royalties for like artists and their music? Sooner or later? Yes? No?
Sooner or later, I mean, we're going to do it, right? When we have it available at the end of April, once the crowd sale is over and once implementation of the coin makes its way onto your app, onto your phone is going to work as your smart wallet for Purple Coin. And artists are going to be paid out in Purple Coin. As the business model, as the white paper works, we want you to exchange that coin for our services, for our digital label record backing services. But you can always cash it out, right? We'll perform that service for you as well, so you can always cash it out for dollars and pay your alimony with it.
So it seems with PurpleThrone, you guys have a very dynamic approach, and I love the way you worded that, Eric. So with the timeline, in terms of like your rollout, where are you guys really trying to go with this?
I'll let the big man take that one.
We are scheduled for our pre-ICO January 22nd, and that will go all the way until February 26th. February 26th is when we begin our crowd sale. And anyone here want to jump in on the ICO crowd sale, you can easily just go over to with Island of Man or
The Havens.
The Havens. Just don't do it here. But yeah, those are our dates.
You said the Havens. Is that another country? Is that what you're?
Can't do it in the United States, right?
Okay.
The Havens. I mean, Saint Kitts and Nevis, which we've incorporated in. Isle of Man in the UK is a big one. Switzerland is probably the biggest and
yeah, I've been hearing with
coolest
Swiss,
looking.
That's like the crypto haven or like
Crypto Valley.
Crypto Valley. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, not to go too far into business plans, but we will eventually be incorporated there as a way of legitimizing ourselves and securing Purple Coin's longevity, right? We don't want to be a pump and dump currency. This is something that will live forever, hopefully. Well after we're dust, right? And then what else? Singapore is a bit of a haven.
Yeah,
What else?
Singapore has and Belarus is trying to be.
Yeah, but then you'll get kidnapped, right, by the Russians.
Well, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we laugh, but what's his name?
well-
Pavel Lerner, right?
Yeah.
That never happened. That never happened.
He got
Well-
he got kidnapped last month.
Yeah, I mean, he ran an exchange.
Allegedly.
So it was a little bit of a different animal there, but yeah, I mean, listen, you can go to Canada, you can go. I mean, the U.S. is unintentionally really difficult to navigate. So, and some of the best projects are not accessible to U.S. citizens for the initial coin offering, but like
Why is that, Ed?
like Singularity Net, for instance, they don't want to deal with the hassle. It's just it costs a lot of money. These lawyers are expensive. The reality is that the advice that you'll get from lawyers today, and these guys are charging like $900 an hour. I swear to God, it's crazy because there are not that many. There are not that many that actually are experts in it. They don't even have enough time in the day. And the reality is they don't know what the laws are going to look like. So there's some. If anybody's interested, I can share some some details on this. I'm actually going to be chairing a panel on governance and legal structures next Tuesday at a conference with some very well-informed lawyers, and they're saying, we're lawyers, we're improvising, man. We're like jazz musicians right now. So they don't know, and this is not something you don't think of
taste the
lawyers
blood
as
in the
being
water.
creative. But they are. I mean, they're having to be. But I think the good news is in the U.S., just my observation, like the SEC, the federal government is not looking to shut this. They don't want to shut down innovation. They really want to see innovation. Now, New York State is another story. We have this thing called the BIT license, where if you want to open up an exchange in New York State, it costs you have to pay through the nose. There's only 3 of them. It's ridiculous. If you're a New York State resident, you are got to jump through some major hoops, but the federal government at least is being pretty constructive
Well,
here.
the beauty about that, folks, is that this is an international online type of thing here. So if you got a computer, you got access to the exchanges. Don't worry about New York.
And live in New Jersey.
Or live in Jersey, yeah. There he is.
Well, I think it's safe to say, even with this panel, we had a pretty dope trajectory. We started from the beginning of music, how it transitioned into tech, where we are right now with music and tech. So kind of like a recap with all of our panelists, I have a question to ask you guys, and it's one of those like gold questions. So within the next 5 years, how do you guys see cryptocurrency impacting music industry? I'm going to start with you, Ed, because you seem ready.
Well, I think there's some amazing projects out there that are going to give musicians for the first time in a generation a real hope of having some ownership and the ability to create communities that are fair. And I really have to hand it to the team here at PurpleThrone for looking at and creating an equitable economic arrangement, right? I mean, there's going to be, there's a lot. We're in the early stages, so we don't know yet what's going to work. But this is the first time that since music became digitized, that I think there's an opportunity for people to really have ownership of their work in a fair way, share it with people, so fans can pay. If they want to pay, they'll support the artists that they want, and then create a much more fair ecosystem where people get, where they get rewarded for their work, and and what you contribute results, is returned in a fair way and a transparent way. That's what I think will happen. I don't know how it'll happen, but I'm really optimistic about that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of Ed, I don't know if it's common knowledge, but music industry has a fairly tainted legacy of musicians, and not just the musicians. Musicians getting ripped off, and then musicians turn executive, and then they ripped off the new musicians on their label, and artists getting their assets stolen. I think I was told, there was a feud between Michael Jackson's kids and, in some
The
of
estate.
in his estate, and same thing I heard with Prince and things of that nature. So I think more so than just cryptocurrency, I think blockchain technology is really going to revolutionize, even though I was told not to say that word, but I think it's going to really change the way the music, the reputation of the music industry. So everything from, from contracts to the publishing to who created this song, and it will live because it's on the blockchain. It will live well past people die, so 100 years, 200 years, and people's rights will be protected.
Right. I think smart contracts alone and blockchain as technology, well, they're already changing the industry, right? But I think in terms of cryptocurrency and token specifics, every major label is going to have one. Every streaming platform is going to have their own. We're just a little ahead of the curve right now, being January of 2018, right? We're lean, we're mean, we can do things quickly like we want them. You're looking at the deciding factor right here. So we saw this growing trend maybe 5 months ago at tops, right? Maximum. And we just started moving full force towards it. And we're very excited to implement at the end of this month to go into our pre-token sale. Run that for a month to February 26th, and then run that for 2 months to April 27th. And then this time next year, we're going to have a very different type of discussion on this panel, and hopefully in Zurich, because we're going places this year. So to all the major labels that are listening, that'll listen to this panel, you're too late. We got it already. We're on it. So try catching up. Good luck.
All right, guys. So, firstly, I want to say we had a pretty great panel. In terms of like all of our attendees, before we transition into the Q&A, the fact that you guys came out to listen, participate, it shows that you guys are taking the first initiative to invest in your education and learn more how you can help yourself as an individual, as an artist. There's a few lawyers in here. Nick, I see you over there. More or less individuals in this entertainment and tech industry and finding better ways to enhance yourself as an individual. So let's give yourselves a round of applause.
Yeah, clap it up, guys. Thank you for coming out.
All right, great. So let's jump into the Q&A. So the way this will be conducted, you guys will raise your hands like we're in elementary school. You will get picked. If you have a specific question to somebody, say their name. We have Ed, Aziz, Eric, Kyle, and we'll be more than happy to answer your question. So let's see those hands.
Yes, Janae.
You remember. So question for you two. Is there a fee, and if so, how much will the fee be for artists to be a part of your platform?
No fees. We're free. Free 99. Free to submit. Free to do whatever you want. The beauty about PurpleThrone, and speaking from an A&R perspective, is we give the power to the artist to really take it as far as they want. Right? We're not signing any management contracts. We're not signing any ownership of content contracts. You come on. It's free. You want to just dump your video and walk away? That's fine. Granted, you won't make as much as you could, but it's free and it doesn't cost you anything. Now, if you want to take the bull by the horns and activate your fan network to really drive your video up our charts, you'll just increase your Purple Coin earning potential exponentially.
It sounds similar to YouTube, but it's a more fair share of distribution. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we're not going to pay you $1 per 1,000 streams. The final token payout structure per placement on the chart is to be determined. We have to figure out after the token sale is over and the amount of worth that we have, specifics in that rate. But it ain't going to be $1 per 1,000 streams. I guarantee you.
Okay. Well said. Any other questions? That gentleman over there. You may have to scream for us so we can hear you.
Dan?
Hi, Dan.
Yeah, walk us through the practical steps that a musician would have to take to sign up with you guys and get published.
No sweat, Dan. He asked, walk us through the steps it takes an artist to get involved with PurpleThrone. It's as easy as submitting your video file on our website, on our submission page, www.purplethrone.com. Follow the submission tab up top. You fill out your artist information, your email. That's how we update you in terms of your Purple Coin tally. Eventually, it'll all just be integrated onto the app, onto your profile on the app. Submit your video files. Submit a picture that you want to use, a thumbnail, your social media information, song, album, artist information. Submit. It goes through a very quick curation process, where basically our A&R teams will check the video for minimal quality control, quality check, just making sure that it's not anything that's just dumped on. It has to be of a certain value, of a certain quality, because we do want to portray ourselves as a new music discovery destination. We want our users to trust us and trust our taste and to have faith in the quality that we put out there. That process takes less than a couple days, and then you're up. And then you're up and running. You'll get a notification email that you're on, and then it's up to you to take it wherever you want to go. Thank you. Nice question.
That was a great question. The gentleman over there in the red, what's up, boss?
We'll be at your office next week, you heard?
That wasn't a question. That was a bit.
That's 147 Front Street, Brooklyn, New York.
Dumbo.
Give me a call.
These
I'm
guys
Eric.
are very
You can-
accessible, by the way.
You can
I've
reach us
been
on
to the
social
office plenty
media,
of times.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, we're at PurpleThrone Corp. Twitter, we're PurpleThrone Core without the P. Follow us. Go online. Download the app, of course. It's free on the App Store. We'll be available on Google Play within a couple months, and those are the best ways to contact us.
All right, awesome. And I see we have another question over there.
What's up, man?
Right, just to be clear, so the app itself is like a streaming app, and people are going to the app like the way they go to like YouTube or SoundCloud, and they're going to the app, and the streams that are on the charts count for the plays that are played on that app specifically.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Not quite. The question was, how exactly does the streaming count work on the app? Is it just a straight streaming count per video? Is that correct?
Yeah, per video on that PurpleThrone app.
It's voter based. So thank you for asking that. Users of the app will go to the video. I mean, you can all check it out right now if you've downloaded it. You go to the video, and in a swiping feature, you swipe left for dislike, swipe right for like, and it's that action that drives our charts. Boiled down, the more positive votes you get, the higher on the chart you get. That being said, we're also going to integrate into PurpleThrone directly on the platform rewards for marketing. So artists will get a Purple Coin payment, let's say, for every successful download that's referred by them, right? So we want you to activate your fan networks, get them to use it, drive you up the charts, and eventually, right now we just have a top 20 for the entire app, for the entire catalog. Eventually, we'll have charts category specific. Go ahead, follow up.
So how do you determine what the payout is per stream?
Yeah, well, we have to go over the numbers after the token sale, after the crowd sale is over at the end of April, and just figure out how much was actually raised, and a chart position per time on the chart. So the higher up on the chart, the longer, the more coin you receive. That specific number we still have to determine.
And I know we had spoke a little bit too. I know, okay, there is a cryptocurrency that's going to be implemented, Purple Coin, but there also is a traditional method that's kind of like the filler to save that as well. You guys want to speak a little bit more about that with the advertising tier?
On the app itself? Yeah, well, we'll be selling ad space like YouTube does, and that money right there, 40% of all that money goes directly to artists. So that's just an instant earn for you guys. Everything that you take above and beyond that is straight Purple Coin earning potential. And now, just to expand on that concept, we're not going to limit it just to votes on the app. Your Purple Coin earning potential is not going to be just confined to the app, right? We're gonna expand into production services, right? So we'll hopefully be producing your work. We're gonna expand into entertainment services, so you'll be able to perform at our venues, our global network of venues around the world, all connected on a digital ecosystem through the use of Purple Coin, right? That's really the way that we're going to get fans, users to interact with the artists. And you know, the services, the list continues, right? The list goes on. So you guys can live stream a show, say, and you can auction it off to your users, right? So they have to pay a certain amount of the Purple Coin to gain access to that live exclusive of your performance. Live stream yourself in the studio, auction that off. Anything you want, you know, practice sessions, anything you're doing, like an Instagram story or a Facebook story, you'll be able to monetize that as well. Be able to sell merch right on your profile, your artist profile on the app. So this is just a way of connecting you to a much larger international audience in as many ways as your imagination can run. And with every update, we'll be thinking of new ways to help you monetize your artwork.
Well said, Eric. I mean, we have space for about 2 to 3 more questions. This is tough. I'm going to start with this gentleman there, second, third. So we'll start with you, boss.
Okay, I have a couple questions. My first one is, like, are we able to, like, download the music through the app that you're going to make? Or is it only playable on the app? That was my first question.
Yeah, no, you won't be able to download. We take ownership of the art very, very seriously. So we're not trying to distribute. We're just offering a platform to view it. If you want to buy artist songs, you can always go to iTunes or wherever they list it.
So it's like an exclusive access to the artist's music.
Exactly.
Through your app.
Yes, exactly. And eventually we'll move into PurpleThrone Originals, exclusive content, and hopefully partnership with artists to create, you know, brand ambassadors and PurpleThrone artists on the digital label.
Okay, and my second question is that you have the votes and payouts, right? So I know you can pay for the artist, but what is like a business revenue stream for your company? Like, how are you guys making money to run this business? Where is your profit coming from?
Well, a multitude of ways. Thank you for asking. Directly on the app, we'll be selling advertising space, like YouTube does. In PurpleThrone Productions, we'll be releasing original content. PurpleThrone Entertainment will be running a global network of music venues and concert venues where everything in-house, commercially speaking, is run off of Purple Coin. So you want that beer, you know, you can use Purple Coin or whatever to get that. And then, of course, Purple Coin itself eventually will move into its own source of revenue in the sense of entering the secondary market and trading.
Can I ask one more thing? Like, what if...
Three's a charm.
What if we, like, record or download or, like, manipulate the apps somehow, and then he could, like, download the music through your app, let's say, as an example. Like, can you, like, take an action to that kind of person who manipulate the app to download?
Are you talking about hacking?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll obviously have state-of-the-art security measures in place and firewalls, right? We'll have state-of-the-art equipment in terms of server speed and power. So if that fails, you know, we know some pretty hard-hitting guys in Brooklyn that'll go after him.
Tony, where you at, Tony? I'm joking. There's no Tony. But that was a great question. Very challenging. We're going to move the question over to the gentleman over there in the back.
How you doing? I just wanted to know, will the value of the payout increase as the value of the purple coin goes up?
Yeah, so we'll be subject to. Sorry, Aziz, I'm kind of stealing the thunder here. We'll be subject to, or Purple Coin payouts will be subject to periodic review. So obviously, the more lucrative Purple Coin becomes, we'll have to adjust the payout for the artist. Thanks, good question.
And I believe you had a question as well, correct?
I did. I was going to ask, how soon can the artist use their profits from PurpleThrone, and how can they use it in their everyday lives?
Sure. Well, as a producer myself, and as an A&R guy who's really treating PurpleThrone as a digital label. We want you to use the coin that you amass on the label to exchange for our production services. We have some of our video production crew here today. We'll be able to produce your records and give you full label backing for way under market fees in terms of redeeming the purple coin. That being said, if we understand you have rent, we understand you have real world bills to pay, you can always cash out the coin for dollars and whatever fiat currency nation that you're in, and we'll perform that service for you as well. So it'll just be a simple function on the app, cash out current daily value of your purple coin, just like online banking, current value, cash out the amount, whatever you want, and we'll perform that service, and boom, it'll just be directly deposited into whatever bank account you link.
Okay, and we have space for 2 more questions. You have one?
Cheyenne?
I just have a clarifying question. Is PurpleThrone specifically exclusive for only visual content? And if not, or if so, how would you integrate or be more inclusive to audio content as well? Just considering that a lot of artists nowadays are embracing anonymity, so they don't want to show their face. Or therefore, like sometimes you might not have the bread to even pay to get a video shot.
No, that's an excellent question too, and something we've been thinking about. We began the platform from a music video angle, just because we feel like that's a very intimate kind of connection with the artist. So you don't just hear them, you see their artwork too, visually speaking. That being said, yes, eventually we'll move into an audio listing as well. It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, we have a gentleman by the name of TJ who actually books shows for us, and he's legally blind. And he's like, I love the concept, I love the whole thing, but I can't freaking use it, So, worst case scenario, workaround, you can always just keep it in your pocket and just listen to your playlist without the videos on and run it audio that way. But eventually we'll run it as a place for artists to submit audio content as well. We want to have like an artist page with their content on the app and audio included. That being said, we want to keep it fresh and trendy. So there's going to be like a turnover, like you can't have stale art on it. But yeah, we'll move into an audio streaming as well.
All right, great. And we have space for one more question. I'm sorry. I see more hands raised up.
Fight over it.
We'll head over to you, Nick.
Ladies first. Sorry, Nick. You're an artist. You know how it works. Go ahead, miss.
So, just like you just mentioned about audio content and visual, is there going to be a sector also where, because, fans always love to get to know the artist more intimately by having conversations. Will there be a sector where you have maybe an employee at A&R or a representative from PurpleThrone interviewing an artist?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do that already. So I invite you to go onto the app and check our PT exclusive section. That's one of the services that we provide. One of the perks that we provide for our artists is, complimentary photo shoots, and we do these video interviews as sort of a get to know the artist better, right? We're treating them as not just another artist with a video and another streaming platform, right? If you join PurpleThrone, you join the whole team. We join you. It's a family-oriented atmosphere and a global network. So it's bigger than just that. But yeah, of course, we go into the video interviews and exclusive content. We want to produce your next video. Based on how well you do on the app. We want to produce your content too. Nick, go ahead. You had a question.
As an artist who's on the app, is there any kind of
currently number 20? You can check it out right now on PurpleThrone.
Because you gotta draw your fan base to the app. So is there any kind of tutorial video or anything that might be produced so people can be like, hey, download the app, swipe right, where it's a little bit clearer for people to get. You know what I'm saying?
We'll run that right after this. Yes, we have one of those. We have it on our. I was running it on our Facebook profile trailer thing. It's on our YouTube page. We're running our YouTube page as more of a visual marketing arm of the company. But yeah, we'll play it right now.
Is that queued already? You guys want to just jump
I think
right to it?
I think Captain Kirk might be able to put it up right now, aka Rip City.
Nice segue, Nick.
So this is it right here. No audio. Sign up, right? Downloads for free on the App Store. Coming soon to Google Play. You enter your information. Username, Save Ferris. Right? Favorite genres. That way we can get a feel and algorithm. This is where fans can put in artist names, right? That's where we're gonna put in the referral code, and then you're off to the races. And then you're discovering new music content, voting. Left for shit, right for lit, folks. Up to swipe, and you can swipe if you're unsure, right? And it's that voting that aggregates the chart. That's what drives the chart. That's
Who's
some
that
guy
guy?
we found. I don't know. Right, so this all drives the chart. And then it's chart placement and time spent there that drives your that most actively drives your coin earning potential. Like I said, you can always throw the phone in your pocket and just run the playlist from an audio perspective.
How many artists do you have right now?
Right now I think we have over 200 videos on the app. Artists directly that we work with, that are more than just people who kind of dumped their video and left it. Artists like, more like Nick over here, who's an active member now of PurpleThrone, an active artist, and it's just been great having you. Just to say that, I mean, I think you're very talented. Artists like him, a few dozen.
So you guys just started the company, PurpleThrone itself?
Correct. Yeah, we launched the app in March of 2017. Conceptually, it went back to Aziz's, napkins at dinner, like to 2015, right?
Yeah.
Which we're gonna frame at some point. So conceptually and building programming, this guy right here did all the programming. That was like a 2-year period, and then we launched in March, and here we are now in January, ready to go.
All right, we have one more question before we wrap up.
Ridley, sorry, yeah, I know. What's up?
If I'm a fan of the app, is there some type of user incentive if I want to share with my friends and family?
I'm really glad you asked that, actually, because I wanted to touch on that. Yeah, we're gonna give users earning potential too. So if you get out and you market the app and you get referrals, you get people to download by referring. They put your name in on the how did you hear about PurpleThrone questionnaire right after sign up. Boom, you get coin. You'll be rewarded for constant and regular use of the app. And then we'll offer you redeemable services in your own right, like VIP access to shows, behind the scenes access to our shoots, and artist meet and greets and stuff like that. We'll give you the royal treatment as well. Go ahead, sir.
Any way artists can interact with each other. Like, if I want to produce somebody else's, if I was on the app, I was searching for different artists to listen to. But as an artist, I was like, wow, this guy's so dope. Let me produce this guy's next track. Is there a way I can hit that person up? Or...
Yeah, well, you can always follow their social media and do the work yourself. But yeah, of course, we'll be implementing a peer-to-peer system, so you can always interact with them directly on the app. Yeah. You can exchange services in the form of Purple Coin in that right, and just take it outside the system. If you're good enough, we'd offer you a job. So talk to me.
But nonetheless, I think in terms of the panel itself, with the questions that were asked, it was very challenging. I've learned a lot from this panel, just being a moderator.
Me too.
I hope everybody here learned something as well. And just in terms of round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, guys. It means a lot. We're gonna do this regularly. So the next one we want to do next month, and then maybe every month for the token sale. So stay tuned.
Right.
Follow us and
definitely
and
a lot more panels to come. On top of that too, Eric, and also the whole aspect of just being a platform to educate. You know, I think we did a great job of that. We accomplished what we wanted to do. You know, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to hit us up personally. We're here hanging out, have some more booze. But nonetheless, thank you guys for coming to the Music and Tech panel. I want to thank our sponsors, PurpleThrone, Secure Our Brand, Young Black in Brooklyn, everybody that helped me.
The WIM,
WeWork for allowing us to have this venue.
Ed,
but
Momentum.
nonetheless, thank you guys. God bless.
Thank you.